8000 BC, music sounded something like this. In 1789, along came Mozart, and music sounded like this. Then in 1907, along came W.C. Handy, and jazz was born. In 1935, the musical world was rocked by Benny Goodman, the king of swing. And then in 1941, along came Spike Jones. And here he is, the man who set music back 10,000 years, Spike Jones.
He was responsible for so much laughter. And he will go down in the annals of show business as a guy that brought something different to an audience. He'll never be duplicated.
In those days, we never knew he was going to be this kind of a legend. I mean, now if you say you work with Spike Jones, it's magic.
He was a good man. He was a professional, he was an artist, and a decent human being. And those of us who knew him very well have missed him, and we still do.
Music at that time was very staid, it was very nice and lush, and basically the element across the country, music-wise, was very conservative. Spike Jones came on the scene and started shooting off guns, chewing gum, wearing outrageous suits, and turned music, you know, it totally did it like a basic 180.
Well, Spike Jones was really at his best when satirizing music that he saw as being pompous or overblown.
my wife. No reply. Nightshades are Chloe? Where are you, you old bat?
If it wasn't for good music, what would I have to wreck, you know? Actually, I owe a lot to the composers, I really do. I admit I decompose what they have, but I really owe them a lot.
You always were the one you loved, the one you shouldn't hurt at all. You always It's a long, long while from May till December, and the days grow short when you reach September.
Why stop to think of weather? I'm not afraid.
He was very precise. You know, you would think that just do that. No, it had to be in rhythm. It had a rhyme, it had a reason. He just didn't make funny noises. Any braying jackass can do that.
I always got to know Spike as being, well, like I was, and maybe I still am, a perfectionist. If something went wrong, he was very, very concerned about it.
If I were performing one night and he didn't like the sound, or he didn't like the lighting, or he didn't particularly like my performance, that's when our relationship went from boss to singer, and rather than husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend.
Did you say I've got a lot to learn? Well, don't think I'm trying not to learn, since this is the perfect spot to learn. Teach me tonight.
And he was very hard on me at times. But later, as I looked back at it, I'm terribly grateful.
He was tough. He was disciplined.
He could be flippant, aggressive.
He was very conservative with money and a lot of things, but not with his men.
Many times I would borrow money from him, pretty big amounts sometimes, and he never even questioned.
Anybody that could do a good joke on Spike, he loved it.
When he laughed, he had such a heart, and he would just shake and so forth and so on. He was a cute guy.
Sometimes a very nice guy, very warm, and sometimes a pretty mean SOB.
He could be very serious and very stern, but he was very serious about his business.
When he got off doing a date or a session, he was a different man. He was like had a dual personality.
If you did your work and were conscientious, he was very kind and very considerate.
One of the saxophone players came back late for the show, and he was standing in the wings to get out on stage, and Spike just picked up his horns, took him over and sat him by the guy in the wings and said, bye.
He was in complete command at all times.
He was terribly preoccupied with success.
I don't think he ever stopped thinking and creating.
All of the hours when we were asleep, he would be awake.
He was constantly trying to better the bits, trying to put new bits in the show.
I saw the guy living on black coffee and cigarettes. Perceive what was going to work. He knew it the minute he saw it. He'd keep it in, do it just like that. And it was, sometimes it was surrealistic, sometimes it was very abstract, sometimes it was something that was removed so far from reality that you would think that's not going to work, but it always did.
Not only did the guys play horns and perform, but they all did little extra things. One of my major contributions was in the building of props or visual gags, and this is one of those props. Now, this is a string bass that we devised that Roger Donnelly would play, playing very furiously up and down, and then suddenly we hear a knock on the bass, and you look around and swing the bass around and open it up, and out would come a midget out of the back of the bass. First Frankie Little, and then later on Billy Barty.
It was my job to stick my hand out and play. He kept fooling around, and then he couldn't find anybody, and I'd come out and I'd kick him and I'd run off the stage. That was one of the props.
One guy's, his sole duty, I think, was to load guns. because he would use up, he'd have about 3 of them handguns on stage, and he'd use them up during the course of the show. But the props were interesting around here. Boy, they had a bunch of them. One was a squash trumpet. I did a fall on stage backwards, and then as if I had had my trumpet laying on the chair. When I came back up, I had this trumpet that was completely flat. And I would, my widow heart.
You couldn't be clumsier if you had 2 heads.
Well, that's what Spike was all about, music and props.
Someone gave him a wooden block and a pair of drumsticks, and he learned to drum by saying, "Mama, Daddy, Mama, Daddy, Mama, Daddy, Mama, Daddy." And that's the way he rolled those drum sticks. Well, then finally he got a snare drum, and it was a pretty nice drum. His folks generally went first cabin if they bought him something, even if they probably gave up something.
They were a couple of quite religious people. He was an only child. His dad was a railroad man, and his mother was a school teacher, and they weren't real warm, you know, they didn't ever kiss or hug or anything.
He had a very kind of lonely childhood.
They kind of wanted the thumb kept on him, and I think that anyone that they contacted was, we were always advised to kind of watch my son because we're away from Long Beach, and we want to be sure that he's walking the straight and narrow. And that was the routine that was kind of given. And Spike sat with his head down as though he were being reprimanded, I believe.
Yeah, probably couldn't wait to get out.
Every so often he would walk home from school, and he would always walk along the railroad tracks. Sometimes some kid threw his name and called him Spike, and it stuck.
In 1930, Spike was in the music, always following his music. And we got together, and we had an apartment together up on Bronson Street in Hollywood. I used to pick up Patty, Spike's wife, and she was with the Fanchonettes.
I was a freelancing radio musician. I did Kraft Music Hall with John Scott Trotter and Bing Crosby, and I was with Victor Young and Rubinoff and many of the bands in radio. I was also the house drummer at Victor and Columbia and Decca.
All right, fellas, let's try the opening of the show again. Quiet, quiet, please. Okay, you ready? It's The Music Hall, starring Bing Crosby.
So after I left John Scott Trotter, I decided to become a band leader and hire myself. And it wasn't easy. And one night I went to the Shrine Auditorium, and I was very fortunate in seeing Igor Stravinsky conduct his own composition, the Firebird Suite. On the stage, the Theodore Kozlov Ballet was dancing, and it happened that Mr. Stravinsky had on a new pair of patent leather pumps. And every time he'd rise to give a downbeat, his shoes would squeak. So during the beautiful passages of Firebird, Charles, you'd hear this all the time, you know? Well, I had a lot of trouble suppressing hysteria myself, and some of the other people were snickering. For some of the pseudos that came down just to be seen, they thought that Stravinsky had done it again and introduced a wonderful new percussive effect. However, I went home thinking if you could plan musical mistakes, possibly, sound effects in the place of notes to musical arrangements, that you might be able to get some laughs out of people. So I got some of the boys together and we rehearsed and made some home recordings. And frankly, Charles, I've never seen such excitement in the record industry about signing up a band before or since. It seems that Decca wanted Columbia to have us, and Columbia wanted Victor to have us, and Victor finally signed us up for 4 sides just to get us out of the studio.
Oh, pass the biscuit, Mirandy. Pass them and tell me goodbye. They're so heavy, Mirandy. I feel like like I'm a-gonna die.
We recorded, and we got absolutely no place because the corny people thought we were subtle, and the subtle people thought we were corny. They didn't think that we knew any better.
But then he gradually added a lot more complex elements. It became more complex in every way.
Until we finally found a tune called The Fuhrer's Face, which more or less put us in business.
When the Fuhrer says, here's the matter, eh? Be Heil! Heil! Right in the Fuhrer's face, not to love the Fuhrer. He's a great, so be Heil! Heil! Right in the Fuhrer's face. Beautiful. When her Goebbels says, behold the world in space, be Heil! Heil! Right in her Goebbels' face. When her Goering says, they'll never bomb this place, be Heil! Heil! Right in her Goering's face. Are we not the Superman? Hey, pure Superman. Yeah, we is the Superman. Super-duper Superman. Is this not the land so good? Would you leave it if you could? Yeah, this Nazi land is good. We would leave it if we could. We bring the world to order. Heil Hitler's world to order. Every one of our race will love the Fuhrer's face when we bring to the world disorder. When the Fuhrer says, be is the master race, be Heil! Heil! And in the Fuhrer's face, not to love the Fuhrer. He's a great disgrace, so be Heil! Heil! Right in the Fuhrer's face.
All the disc jockeys started playing them because it was just at the start of our entrance into World War II, and Hitler was the big bogeyman of the time.
It was a major success and the beginning of Spike Jones and the City Slickers.
Immediately after that season of radio, he went on tour, a theater tour, throughout the United States with the band and played vaudeville theaters, as they were known then, 5 and 6 shows a day, and the shows were sold out every place.
Crank, crank, another drink. Plenty in the cellar when it's gone. Drink, drink, the glasses clink. Making tinkling music till the dawn is breaking. Clang, clang, who cares a dang? What's the difference when you're on a spree? Over the teeth behind the gums, look out stomach, here she comes. I have another drink on me. Gurgle, 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 gurgle. Gurgle, 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 gurgle. Tickle, 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 slice of cheese and bite of pickle. Doesn't even cost a nickel now to wash it down. Oh!
When I first joined the band, boy, what a bunch of drinkers they were. Really heavy drinkers. Some would just barely get to the first show in a theater, and even when I first joined, Spike was drinking rather heavily. I think only 2 of us didn't drink. That was the first time I was with the band was the tuba player and myself.
These guys drank all day long. Spike had the valet on the side of the curtain on the stage, and when Spike would go over and take a bow and go off 1 second, take a glass of bourbon straight, and go right back out and do a show. And I never seen anyone falling down drunk. They were always partying, but, you know, they always did a good show. He had someone else do the announcements. I think Carl Grayson or Del Porter used to do the announcements on the stage. He just played the drums. He was very shy.
I wrote a song with Spike Jones back in 1942 called, it was a wartime song, Leave the Dishes in the Sink, Ma. That sounds like a really, really corny title. He recorded it, and it was on the flip side, my luck, of Cocktails for Two, which I think is the biggest hit that Spike ever had.
In records like Cocktails for Two, Spike Jones really created something that hadn't really existed before, at least not in a purely audio medium. I mean, other people like the Hoosier Hotshots had made music that was a lot of fun to listen to, but Spike was the first one with his use of sound effects and occasionally cleverly altered lyrics and peculiar voices and glugs and all sorts of things like that to really completely upset the normal foundations, the normal parameters of what popular music performance was supposed to be. Cocktails for Two would be an ideal example. For the first 30 seconds of that record, you think you're listening to Fred Waring and his Pennsylvanians.
Oh, what we like to be given the right to be carefree and gay once again. No longer slinking, respectably drinking like civilized ladies and men. No longer need we
charming scene like this. In some secluded rendezvous that overlooks the avenue, with someone sharing a delightful chat, this and that, and cocktails for two, as we enjoy a cigarette to some exquisite chansonette. Two hands are sure to slyly meet beneath a serviette with cocktails for two. My head may go real, but my heart will be obedient, with intoxicating kisses for the principal ingredient. Just any afternoon at 5, we'll be so glad we're both alive. Then maybe fortune will complete her plan that all began with cocktails for two. No! My head may go real, but my heart will be obedient, with intoxicating kisses.
Hey, how'd you win that?
First prize, flower show.
For the principal ingredient, most any afternoon at 5, we'll be so glad we're both alive. Then maybe fortune will complete her plan that all began with cocktails for two.
He recorded Cocktails for Two on the great big transcriptions, which were not sold to the public. And then he went overseas with the USO. And while he was overseas, the thing hit. It became a smash, but there was no records. Everybody was ordering millions of orders and no records. And he didn't come back for like 2 months, and then when he came back, I was with him. Then he went in and recorded it and got it out, and it was still a hit.